Okay guys, let's make a pot. I had just forgotten and I just went and got one of these, a tennis ball. Another tool, weird tool that you might want, but the only reason that you might want a tennis ball if you happen to have it is that if you take a piece of clay and you bang it to a ball in your hands and compare it to the tennis ball, if you get it about the same size as a tennis ball, that's about 1 pound of clay. So if you're trying to stretch your clay the farthest, like if you're trying to say, well, I'm gonna make 5 mugs, then you're gonna try to make each mug out of roughly that much clay. It's really not that important, but you know, if you want it, great. Okay, so I'm not gonna do that for now. I'm just gonna start making a mug. This project is just a really, really basic primer into how to make a coil built mug. So what I'm gonna do, just to let you know, we're gonna make a mug where we start with a slab and then we're gonna put 3 coils on it and we're gonna pinch those coils up and we're gonna make a cylinder. That's it, this is the whole thing. If you can do that, you can do all the rest of it. So it's really, really simple, okay? So I'm gonna get started. Okay, I've gotten the clay out of the bag. Now, I don't recommend that you just take the clay out of the bag and set it down somewhere. You want to get as much clay as you're going to work with and then put the rest of the clay back in the bag. It's super important, especially if you're working outdoors, because the wind will really dry the clay out fast. If the clay starts to dry out, you can actually add water to it to make it a little bit softer so that you can work it some more. It's kind of a pain, so if you can keep the clay wet, that is really going to be to your advantage. So it's kind of nice to have a big bag for that because you can really wrap it up good. All right, so I'm going to take this out and I'm going to take the wire tool. So this is the wire tool just like you have. And I'm gonna cut off a chunk. This is, I don't know, well, not even, okay, let's go 2 inches roughly of the clay. All right, so that chunk of clay, all right. I'm not gonna worry about measuring it right now. I'm just kind of getting an amount. All right, so the rest of the clay goes right into the bag. Fold it over, set it aside. I'm gonna set it over here just so it's not in the way. All right, with this clay, I'm gonna make a mug. So I'm gonna pat it into a ball. I shouldn't have thrown that tennis ball away. So there's this ball of clay that I got right there. And now I gotta find the tennis ball. Okay, so you can see the tennis ball is much small, well, not much smaller, but it's considerably smaller than the ball of clay. This is probably more like 1.5 pounds, 1.75 pounds of clay. Again, that's fine. That should give you, you know, again, roughly 3-ish mugs that way. And I might not even use it all. So I'm just gonna start with that just as a starting point. All right, so this goes away again. Now I'm going to take a chunk off of this. So I gotta get my tools out of the way. There we go. And so you can kind of see, I'm cutting it, I don't know how much to say that is, maybe 25% of the clay off. Okay, I'm just using the tool, great, the wire tool. Another thing I should tell you that I've already done, now this isn't actually going to be necessary for now, but after this mug is ready and I get ready to attach a handle on it, it's going to be important. I went ahead and started making some slips. So let me show you what that looks like. So all I did was I took a chunk of clay, about a pinch of clay, like a pinch of clay, and I put this in the mug and I put about 1/4 teaspoon of water, like not not almost as much water as there was clay, but just a little bit less. And then I just took those two things, I put them in there, and I used that wooden dowel, there it is, and I just mixed it up like that. So you can actually see, if I pull the dowel out, you see what I've got there? This sort of slightly soupy, slightly slurry-ish clay. So there's actually a chunk there that still needs to get mixed up. That's slip, that's all it is. But you're probably gonna want some of this at some point. If you don't wanna make it right now, you might wanna make it right after you finish making your first mug. So anyway, just be aware of that. Okay. So this, I'm not gonna use right away. I'm gonna start with this. So I'm actually gonna stick this on the plastic. You can even wrap it up. So again, just sort of trying to be really thoughtful about that. Okay, I am going to switch from sitting down to standing up, which means really you're just gonna be looking at my hands, but you don't need to see this face, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and start working, and you'll see what's happening. Okay, so here we go. I'm gonna start by making a slab out of this. I'm just gonna actually push it with my hands. After I push a little bit, you can see where it's starting to stick to the board. If you keep trying to push, it doesn't actually spread out very much because it gets too stuck. So after I push it a few times, I flip it over. And I'm just using the palm of my hand. This is one of those places where I could use a tool. So I could try one of these lovely bottles. All right, so this works great. Just like that, a little bit less effort, but I kind of like just using my hand. So I'm gonna use my hand this time. I can also, run my fingertips over it. So like the inside, think about one side of this is gonna be the bottom of your mug. So you can put all kind of little impressions in it. So it's bumpy, it doesn't have to be smooth, right? It's your mug, you can make it however you want. All right. I'm gonna smooth this one back out a little bit, but I kind of like that it's got a little bit of bumpy to it. All right, now for thickness, what I'm trying to do is make it basically what I think of in my brain as the thickness of a mug. So right now it's kind of a pancake, maybe. I'm trying to get it very even, same thickness all the way across, and then I'm gonna maybe make it a little bit thinner. Now it's plenty big, right? It's literally too big if I'm thinking about a mug. Unless maybe I'm thinking about a soup mug. Maybe I do want a mug that's really wide and it's gonna be tall. But in this case, I'm actually want to make it I'm gonna make the slab a little bit bigger than I actually need. I'm gonna cut a circle out of it. Okay, I think that's pretty good. I kind of like that. One of the things that you want to be careful of, is really easy to get it really super thin on the end. So try not to do that. If you do, it's okay. Just use the part in the middle. All right, I've got my lovely little mug, which I normally use for paint. This is a plastic mug, but I'm gonna kind of use this to give me the diameter. So I'm gonna just take this and flip it over and stick it in the middle. And I'm gonna make a very light impression. I'm not gonna try to go through. All I wanna do is make a mark. Okay, now I have a mark. Now this gets a little bit weird because I just made this mark. You're gonna think I'm gonna cut on the mark. I'm actually gonna cut outside the mark. One of the things about clay is it shrinks when it's fired, about 12%. So if I want a mug to be about this size, I'm gonna need to cut the circle about 12% bigger. Now, I don't know how much 12% bigger is. It's, bigger. So I'm gonna fake it, right? So I'm just gonna take a needle tool. Oops, that's my needle. That's my official needle. Let me not do that. I'm gonna take the nail because that's what you have. Aha. And I'm going to cut a circle. I'm gonna actually go about halfway down to start. It's a little bit bigger than the circle that I just made. I'm just doing this, I'm just eyeballing it. I know it's not completely round. Even if you got this exactly into a perfect circle right now, you would just mess it up in the next step. So don't get it kind of circle-ish. You don't have to worry about getting a perfect circle. Okay, there's my circle. You can kind of get a better sense of the thickness. It's the same thickness all the way around. You can see how much bigger it is than the circle that I put on there from the mug. I've got a little bit of extra clay. Right now, I'm gonna take it and ball it up, and I'm gonna put it back on the ball. Okay, that is step one. How easy is this? This is a good place for me to take a break to make sure that you all catch up. So you may want to stop the video here, and then when you get to here, turn it back on. Okay, so here's my circle. I'm gonna move it up just here so I have a little bit more room to work down here. Here is the ball of clay, and here's that extra clay. I'm gonna take that and stick it in there. Okay, now I'm going to take this. Remember I said it's gonna be like 3 coils, so I don't wanna go more than 1/3. I don't know exactly how much 1/3 is. I'm just kind of using that as a basic measurement in my mind. The old wire tool again. You can just take this and rip it. It's just much easier to do this if you take this and do it. So I'm gonna take about that much so you can kind of see you can kind of see how much of this. I don't know why I'm making sounds like I just do. All right. So took about that much. Again, put this away. This is gonna be the first coil. So I'm gonna knock this down. So it's starting to become a coil. And I'm gonna actually start the coil just in my hands. You might remember doing this at some point in your life, like maybe kindergarten. What I kind of like about making pots is that the technology of this is really, really simple and old. It doesn't take special machines other than that your hands are special machines. But that being said, you can make super refined pieces just the way we're making them. So. All right, so now it's starting to get long and even. Try not to let the ends get too thin. Okay, now I'm gonna take this and roll it on the board. You can continue to roll it in your hands. I find that when I do it in my hands, it gets very uneven very quickly. So I'm rolling it just with my fingers. Now, I've done this for a long time, and so I can roll these generally pretty round. When you're doing this, particularly if you haven't done this in a long time, it might go flop, 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 flop on you. If it starts to flop, if you get like the flat part, if you take the flat part and it's on top, flip it so that the flat parts are on the sides and the tall point is at the top, tap it down so that it's kind of the square, and then roll it some more. You can start rolling it again. Also, know that it actually isn't super duper important, because some people, actually when I say some people, I mean like some super duper pot makers. They actually make a round coil and then they flatten it slightly and then they put it on the pot. So if you naturally make a flat one, it's not necessarily the end of the world. You might just want to use it that way. So it might work better for you. I don't know. I tend to find that for me, I think the round works a little bit better. So I'm going to try to stick to as round as I can. Can you see here, there's a little bit of cracking going on in the clay. Not much, but just a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and get my water out, dip my fingers in there, and just give that a tiny, tiny bit of water. And I'm actually gonna take that water and put it right on the board by turning this around. Whoops, okay, I'll put a little extra water on the board. So it doesn't actually matter, like if it starts to crack, you might wanna just do that to help smooth it out and keep it soft. if it starts to crack and then you try to bend it, it's gonna get really, really cracky. So all I'm doing is adding a little bit of water to the cracked area just to sort of make that smooth back out. Okay, there's my first coil. I'm gonna stick it on the pot. And I made enough that it actually overlaps, okay? So I'm gonna do something very fancy here that if you, you might know that this is sort of a carpenter's trick. So with the overlap, you can see that I'm actually gonna take, whoops, I keep using the wrong tool. I'm gonna take the wire, just the same wire that you have, and I'm gonna cut it down halfway between where the overlap is. So it's gonna cut through both coils. Okay, now remove the two ends, and now your coil should fit down right on top of itself, okay? These two ends I'm gonna put back into the pile. Notice that the two ends actually have a little pocket. See that little hole right there? If it's just matching right there, you wanna be careful about that little hole because you don't wanna end up with an air pocket in your coil. So if you're gonna actually use the tip, make sure that the tip gets flattened so that there's no air pocket. See the difference? And that way you can put them together without, see if I put this one together and there would be an air pocket. You see what I'm saying? So anyway, just be aware of that. If it's a little bit extra long, then that's even better because then it'll fit without that problem. All right, so here's my two pieces. I'm gonna put them back in the pile. All right, my first coil, very exciting. Now that the coil is together, you see where it joins. I'm gonna smooth out the area where it joins. So I'm just lightly pushing. This is a good spot for Mr. Popsicle Stick, just to run that right over that edge. You can do it with your fingers as well. That's basically what the popsicle stick, that's the reason I put it in there. It's a way of sort of smoothing over joints, okay? I'll set that down. Right now you can see the difference. No, you can't see the crack. All right, now I'm going to join the coil to the slab. To do that, I'm going to start by putting a finger on the inside and pushing down while a finger supports on the outside so that when I push, I'm not pushing the clay out. I'm pushing down and it's just going down. One really key thing here is that when I do this, I'm gonna make a mark with the needle, with this fancy needle tool. So I'm gonna have to push some from the inside down, and then I'm gonna push some from the outside down on the outside. Think about what the full width here, think about dividing it kind of in thirds. Okay, can you kind of see where those marks are? So the idea here is that this third is going to go down. This third is going to go to the outside. The third in the middle is going to stay there. What you don't want to do is sort of divide it in half and say like, oh, I'm going to put half of it on the inside and half of it down the outside. And then you only leave a very thin ridge at the top. When you do this, what you want is a nice thick area on the top so that you can put another coil on, okay? So I'm gonna do this, I will go through and do it and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna just push down. I'm gonna use my thumb. I'm just pushing the inside and supporting on the outside. And I want to make sure that it joins really well. So can you see where those are all, where I've just pushed that down? All right, I'm going to go back through with the popsicle stick and I'm just going to even smooth that even more. I'm going to get rid of the line. Not 100% perfect. That's okay. Okay. All right, now I need to do the same thing on the outside. I'm gonna now support on the inside and push the clay down that back third. And I'm gonna push it all the way down to the wood. This is why I said you don't need a perfect circle. Okay, I used the popsicle stick just to do a little bit of getting it better together. So now you can kind of see what I've got. Just the coil, nice and thick. It's still super thick here. And then it's pushed into that slab. And it's joined on both sides, okay? So if I put my finger in here, what I can feel is down here at the bottom, it's a little bit thicker. And then it's about the same the rest of the way up. That's it. That's the first coil. Woohoo! 1/3 of the way there. Okay.